Yes.
Hello. The saying "my wife, my girlfriend, my children, my husband," and all of that. This language reinforces the false identity.
Yeah.
But what's the alternative in English? Like, if I want to talk about my friend, I have to say, what do I say?
What needs to change? We can't change the language, otherwise we lose the capacity to communicate. But what we have to change is the way we understand that. What I possessed previously, I now understand that they are not mine. They belong to the Lord. And they are my loving responsibility to help to traverse this journey through what we call life. So language may stay the same, but the consciousness shifts. Is that okay?
It is good. I still, because the Maha Mantra is you're putting sounds, even on a material level, they go in your ears and shape your brain physically. I know there's a lot more to it than that, but it's similar with the language. Like, the more we use the word "my,"
Yeah.
and it's like in English that's doing double duty as possession and
Yeah.
relation. So I know, I agree, we can't change the language, but it's just,
Yeah.
it bugs me.
Well, part of the spiritual process, there are kind of like three things that are important. One is to engage in the meditative process. The second one is to cultivate spiritual wisdom. In Sanskrit, this is called Atma Gyan, knowledge of the self. And so one cultivates an understanding of the self, of the supreme self, or God, or the highest transcendental reality, but also of this world and the relationship between them all. That's really important. And then the third thing is to have the association of like-minded people who also are on a spiritual journey, and it is reinforcing. So the thing that's transformative is the meditation, the spiritual sound, these holy names. That's what will change everything and grant us the ability to see with clarity. But the cultivation of understanding helps us to curb bad ways of acting and living and adopt ways that make it so that we're more susceptible to the influence of this transcendental sound. And by associating with others who are on the similar journey, it's encouraging. Very welcome. What did you guys think of the subject? Frightening. Yeah. Huh? Depressing. Well, no. I think when we first come to recognize what the situation is in our predicament, yeah, it seems to be depressing, but there is a way out. There is, and understanding what's going on really helps to shape what our behavior could be like going forward. And the more that we undergo, the more that we grow spiritually in this journey and understand, the greater the ability we will have to influence those near to us gently. And, when they see that something different going on in your life, they will be somewhat attracted. And this way we can expand the influence. So, yeah, it seems depressing when we hear the blunt reality of things. It's absolutely shocking that everybody is so sucked in. And there's like almost no, I mean, there was a documentary that was done a few years ago. It was called The Social Dilemma. And that's something that you probably need to watch from time to time for it to really sink in. But when you get people that were foundational in the development of these technologies and their influences now saying that this stuff is alarming, they're freaked out by it. But it's sort of like people can watch it and go, oh, that's a shock. And then 2 days later, you've forgotten about everything.
Well, I found the topic, peace, absolutely apt for me. And, you know, today, this morning, I didn't even know I was going to be here. It just happened, transpired, that a friend from Canberra told me about this. Thank you very much. I didn't know about it otherwise. Thank you for your talk. The thing that you know, I think about a lot is our interconnectedness with everybody in the world. And we live in a wicked world. I mean, I have felt so unpeaceful because of the state internationally. Now, that's something that bothers me. I think about it a great deal. And while also recognising that I'm in quite a privileged position here in Sydney, I can turn off the news and, you know, the constant news feed that you alluded to. But gee, you know, every couple of days, I have to know what's going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it distresses me, depresses me, and I don't feel peace.
Yeah.
But then again, tonight, I did. Thank you all very much.
Thank you very much. You know, if we look at things with eyes wide open, it is alarming, it is distressing. But when we cultivate a more of a spiritual understanding about life and things, we do begin to see a way forward. And it necessitates, of course, starting with ourself, you know, to try and seek the changes that we'd like to see in the world and in others. Have you heard of the Serenity prayer? It's so beautiful. You know, it's very commonly used in circles of drug and alcohol addiction because it provides a paradigm or tools to actually learn how to live. And it begins, actually it's longer, but what's usually only used is the first 3 lines. Grant me, which is a prayer and it's a plea to some higher reality, whatever we want to think of that as. Grant me the serenity to accept those things I cannot change. That's a really profound idea. And from our perspective, that serenity is going to come from the cultivation of the understanding that we are all eternal spiritual beings, having a temporary material experience, which may not be very pleasant. In that, one will find the serenity to be able to accept those things you cannot change. The second one is, grant me the courage to change those things that I can. I used to run a lot of programs in prisons, and it was always very interesting teaching mindfulness and meditation and new approaches and ways of thinking about stuff. And a lot of these people that I dealt with had never heard anything like this before, and they had no thought that you could actually begin to take the steps that would determine how your life was going to be experienced by you, that it could become actually really awesome if you learn to make really good choices. And it was a 10-week course that we're doing. Part of it was, the exploration of the Serenity prayer, and then in relation to the question, what are the things that you actually have power to change? You'll find that in the human condition, we love to dwell on those things that we can't change. Why did she talk to me like that? Why did he do that? Why? All stuff that can't be undone and that we have no control over. And yet we want to change it all the time. And the advice is, hey, that's not a good space to be in. But what are the things that you can actually control and make decisions about? So I'd give the guys the homework to start thoughtfully for a week, develop a list. And it was really far out. They would come back with, well, you can decide what you're going to put in your body and what will be the ramifications of that in terms of health. You can decide on how you are going to be affected by what somebody is saying, particularly if they've been really unpleasant or cruel. You can actually decide how that's going to affect you. And, so it was quite mind-blowing. And the reality is that in this world, everybody spends more time focusing on the stuff that cannot be changed and not enough time on the things that can be changed. You need to become courageous often to do that. Grant me the courage to change those things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. The difference between that which you have the power to change and that which you don't, and you must simply accept. This is extraordinary advice for life, which can be applied to relationships, particular situations, things that you encounter. It has a deep spiritual foundation to it, at least from the yogic perspective. So that would be my advice, is to build a little bit of a practice of reciting that and thinking about it in relation to your life and what you're experiencing, because it will give you a pathway forward where you can actually begin mentally and physically to do things and head in directions that make a difference to you. And when your life is changing, you will have an influence and effect on others. Sound okay? It's practical. It's a wonderful place to start. There's more that can be done, but that's pretty far out, that one alone. It's nice talking about this type of subject. I don't mean, how crappy everything is, but, the idea of approaching things from a spiritual perspective, it doesn't it feel good? And it gives you some little glimpse into the fact that, things can get better for you, like way better. I promise they can become extraordinarily wonderful. But you have to take the journey. You must seek that change of consciousness, change of heart.
But I wanted to ask about, if you were to chant Coca-Cola, it doesn't have the same effect as chanting the holy names of Krishna. And I wanted to ask about why is it the spirit self is not fooled by chanting Coca-Cola? It's not fooled. There's no joy in chanting Coca-Cola to chanting the holy names of Krishna. Why is it that the spirit self is not fooled?
Not
fooled. Not fooled by chanting Coca-Cola.
material sound vibration, they are just simply syllables that don't contain anything. They may trigger some meaning to us. So, I often use the example of mango. We could all sit around and say mango, 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 mango. We could start singing it melodiously, mango, mango. And it's like, after a while, it drives you nuts. You don't get to taste anything, you don't experience anything apart from it becoming irritating. And it's simply just empty syllables. These spiritual sound, and some people may question this, but we understand that they actually descend from a spiritual platform, and they contain a unique potency, a potency that is transformative and actually begins to unlock real joy and joyfulness. So there is a whole deep science on what is this spiritual sound and why it is different. We don't want to get too technical or anything. We'll just state that it actually contains a whole world of spiritual experience. People that sincerely engage with the process over their life, they may have all types of wonderful experience and awakening, from engaging. And it has this wonderful ability to increase in sweetness. You ask most people here, what's your favorite music? Let's just say it's none of the chanting that we've been doing. Just what's your favorite piece of music that really, you just feel like it, that's amazing. It's just wonderful. It just makes me feel good. It makes me all emotional or whatever. You just choose your favorite piece of music. You sit that person in a chair and put on headphones, and you're going to listen to nothing but that piece of music for the next 5-6 hours, or even 10 hours. And what in the beginning is like heaven very quickly becomes like hell. They don't want to hear it anymore. I watched this interview one time of a musician in Europe, and he was talking about, when they write a song and it becomes a hit, then every time you do a concert, everybody wants you to play it. And he said, but after a few years, you just hate it. You just don't want to hear it anymore. And yet everybody's requesting it. It's kind of like, you almost have to do it. And it's almost a painful experience for him. So material sound, vibration, has that characteristic. that does not contain any inherent blissfulness and happiness and real deep experience. And when you're constantly exposed to it, it becomes distasteful. Whereas with spiritual sound, the opposite is true. That one's first engagement, I've been doing this, traveling all over the world, and it doesn't matter what country you're in, on what continent, it evokes the same response from all people. And it's because of the very nature of the sound. It's not just empty syllables. There is a potency there. There is a spiritual reality there.
You think you can get sick of the chanting? You're chanting too much, can you get sick of it? Or
Can you get sick of it? I haven't got sick of it yet. I don't know. I've been doing it for like 55 years. Yes.
Thank you. I'm very comfortable here, but uncomfortable holding this and using my voice. May I have a question? Yvette, is that your name? Yes. I really love that question, and I was just curious because Krishna's in our heart, right? Shining like a diamond. And once we purify, I'm just wondering if we never get sick of it, if it's because all he wants is to hear and for us to serve and remember him. And so singing the holy names, chanting the holy names, remembering them and sharing them all, that's that connection with Krishna inside your heart. I don't know why I had to say that, or I wanted to ask. I don't exactly know what I'm trying to say, but I felt called to ask, could that be a reason why?
Yeah. There is I mentioned earlier, there's a couple of truths that we share. One, that we're eternal spiritual beings, that the process of meditation on spiritual sound will awaken us to our spiritual identity, and it actually is food for the soul. It's transformative. The third thing is that we actually have in the Upanishads, there is a description, it's an analogy, that you have a tree and there are two birds sitting within the tree. One of the birds is busily engaged in hopping from branch to branch, trying to taste all of the fruit, but all the while is feeling morose and lonely. The other bird is uniquely different and is spiritually glorious and powerful, and is standing there waiting for the first bird to turn and recognize his eternal friend. And when that happens, the moroseness, the unhappiness, the emptiness of the first bird becomes alleviated. So this analogy is taught in the yoga system, that residing within the region of the heart, there is both you, the eternal spiritual being, and the one that can be described as your actual soulmate, the Lord of your heart, that you are intimately connected with, but have turned away from. And so for that reason, there is always this emptiness and this hungering for a more meaningful life, more meaningful connection. I want to experience actual love, to love and to be loved in a way that is almost limitless. That is our desire. Everybody desires, whether they admit it or not. It's a very powerful driving force. And so the third thing that I wanted to share is when we reconnect with our actual source, we become complete. And everything changes. So it is true that there is this feature of God. It is called the Paramatma. Atma means the self, Param means supreme. So this is like the supreme soul that sits within the heart of all living beings. We experience this presence sometimes as intuition, as guidance from within. There's another Sanskrit word that's used, Chaitya Guru, which means the Guru within, that is capable of guiding us. It is not our mind, it's not us. And it is a fact that when one engages in this process over time, they will become increasingly aware of this presence, and they will experience what the word yoga means, the union between the individual soul and the supreme soul. And so that one may not want to go there, one may not want to, deal with that kind of stuff, and that's fine. No, absolutely no issue. You don't have to. But it is intelligent and good for you to engage in this process of meditation and to cultivate an understanding of your actual deep inner spiritual identity, who you truly are, to find out, to discover. Somebody else had a question? Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. I like what she said is eventually the sound comes back to your breathing. Breathing has a very important, is very significant in all the meditation practices. I actually looked it up and found out that breathe or smell is the only sense that reaches to the center of your brain. All the other senses are superficial, which is one of the reasons why breathing is considered important. The question...
I'm having a little trouble hearing the way the sound is here. Do you want to...
Breathing is very central to most meditation practices.
Breathing? Yeah.
Penetrates to the center of the brain.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was an interesting observation where she said it goes from sound to breathe, which is perfect.
In the Ashtanga yoga process, you have yama, niyama, asana, pranayama. The actual reason for engaging in pranayama primarily was to completely quieten the mind. The process of Ashtanga yoga is what I would call a more mechanical approach to seeking realization. The great authority on this, Sri Patanjali, he codified that whole process. But he also said there is something else that is beyond the processes of Ashtanga yoga. When he spoke about the highest form of samadhi, Ashampragyata samadhi, and how incredibly difficult it is to attain, he then speaks one shloka, one verse, Ishvara Pranidhanat Va, which literally means that one can also, not just also, one can certainly attain the highest spiritual experience through the process of complete surrender to Ishvara. So on one hand, yes, it is true that some of the mechanical processes can be extraordinarily helpful, but they may only be able to bring a person so far. We recommend just very even simple yogic breathing as a way to bring calmness, as a way to become settled, and we connect it with the use of mantra so that we can take advantage of that state of becoming a little bit more calm and focused with becoming more focused on the spiritual sound. That experience transcends the gross physical body and the subtle body. It actually penetrates to and becomes, as I said, spiritual nutrition for the Atma, the soul itself. So yeah, breathing is important and is extremely helpful, but that is not going to be sufficient.
Yep.
I hope that's okay,
Yeah.
my sharing that.
Yep. And I had one more question. We know our ancestors were brilliant. They've done so many things. They could map the skies. They could calculate things like crazy. Do you think nature was stupid enough to only pass on the looks, the physical traits of our ancestors down to
Do I
us?
think what? What was that again?
She was stupid enough to only pass on the
Physical traits.
physical traits.
And,
Physical traits?
yeah, of our ancestors, and none of the knowledge has been passed, or has the knowledge been lost somewhere? And when we meditate,
The passing of knowledge is not like genetics.
yep,
It actually must be heard, and it must be contemplated on, and we must grow and develop in a practice that brings it to fruition, where it's actually experienced. So one of the unfortunate things today is people are not exposed to that form of experience. And there are hardly any teachers who are qualified to pass on many of those things that were very common before.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Good evening. Thank you very much for the great evening, guys. I think you're a very kind soul. My question is, how important do you think is chaos and being lost and just all those difficulties in the journey to finding peace? Do you think it's essential? And if not,
I'm having I don't know what, it's kind of strange where I'm sitting here between the speakers and the sound becomes a bit muffled for me. Chaos?
How important is chaos in the journey to getting?
How important is chaos? Positively or negatively?
if you're trying to find peace, how important is it?
This age in which we currently live, the ancient sages described it as the age of chaos, quarrel, and confusion. And it was extremely disorienting and makes spiritual practice difficult, because people become distracted and overly influenced by the chaos, quarrel, and confusion. I've done a lot of work in prisons, and as part of the programs that we share, they're centered around mindfulness and meditation. And one of the things that we try to help people appreciate is that when you're in a heightened state of emotion, my advice is don't speak, don't act, don't make a decision. You need to go away. You need to disengage, step back, go do some breathing or chanting or take a long walk. And when you are completely calmed down, ask yourself the question, how should I respond to this person or this situation in a way that will actually make my life better? And hopefully would make the other person's life better also. We don't do that. We have been deeply conditioned to just always respond to and follow the mind. And when emotions become high, we lose control of our mouth, we lose control of our logical thinking, and verbal diarrhea. It's just all this harmful stuff comes out. So, when our lives are chaotic, when our thinking process is chaotic, it just from a material perspective alone, it's very upsetting and disturbing, and it produces bad outcomes, and it damages relationships. To grow in spiritual perception and understanding, it means that you'll be able to live in this world and engage in relationships that are actually far more fruitful and meaningful. So, there's a whole lot of ways we could deal with the subject of chaos, but in terms of the effect that it has on the human beings and your mind, it's very disorienting and destructive. It doesn't produce good outcomes. Okay? I mean, isn't it? It's so classic. This prediction for this time, it is so ancient. And the idea of chaos, quarrel. I mean, everybody fights over everything. Even stuff you don't need to fight over. But we build this auto response where we fight over all kinds of things. Quarreling and confusion, not being able to see things clearly, not even being able to see that my actions and my choices are making my life miserable. Again, back to the prison, I tell the guys, you've got to understand, wherever you find yourself in life, it is the product or the result of choices that you have made and actions that you have taken. And if you want a good life, you need to learn how to make really good choices and engage in really good action to produce outstanding results. But we don't even recognize, our poor choices our bad response to things, our desiring something that's actually not necessarily good for us. We don't understand how that screws up our life so badly. And then we become bitterly unhappy, and we want to blame our unhappiness on everybody else. We don't recognize that we're here because we made these choices. You know, a key one is relationships. It's just like, oh my God, massive eye roll. You know, we're talking about romantic relationships. They always start with such deception. You hide all your bad qualities. You don't want the other person to know about it or see it because you're afraid they won't like you or love you. And they're doing the same thing. And then people, putting forward this false projection of who they are. Then they finally get into a solid relationship or they get married and everything starts coming unglued. And the number of times I've heard, if I knew you were like that, I would never have married you. And it's like, do you know how stupid that is? How dumb are you? That's your job. You need to know what you're getting involved with. Don't blame somebody else for your lack of due diligence. When you buy a car, you don't just look at a picture on the internet. Oh yeah, okay, I'm doing that, and send the money. Does anybody do that? No. You want to check it out. You want to open the hood, and maybe bring a mechanic, and can you check this out for me? But when it comes to relationships, we don't do that. We're just so irresponsible, and we just want to pretend and we have this other thing, unrealistic expectation that this is going to be perfect. No, it's not. There's no perfection in this world. Get off that trip. There's going to be a lot of hard work, but it can be nice. You can work it out if you're smart. But if you live in la la land, it's just like, what can I do? This process, of cultivating knowledge of your spiritual identity and everything that will come from that will make you a way better person and a much more responsible person. And things will become so much clearer to you. You'll be able to live a good life and you will die a good death. Because that's coming. Okay, good enough? Thank you so very much for giving me the opportunity to speak to you. I usually tell people that I've had an extraordinary life, and I've had the privilege of having the association of two wonderful saintly personalities that have deeply influenced my life, and I have an enormous debt to them for the kindness that they have shown me. And it is practically impossible for me to repay that debt. But when I have the opportunity to share with anyone some of these great gifts, then you are kindly providing me with an opportunity to actually repay, at least in part, the great debt that I have. So I thank you.
Acharya, we'd like to invite you to perhaps lead a short kirtan to finish up.
A short kirtan.
Well, if you want to, it can be a long kirtan. But a kirtan. It would be lovely to chant with you again before we finish the evening.
So we'll do something a little bit cruisy. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Together. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. One more. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Haribol.